Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me and allowing me to continue to be your daily advocate. If you're new here or you're not subscribed for any reason, please do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button. Thank you to all of you who have been watching and following me for so long. It truly means a lot, and I'm glad that I can be this person.
I want to jump into the statement out of Ripple saying they are willing to unseal all their legal memos back from 2012. We have not yet seen the memos themselves, and those could be released at any point tonight or tomorrow, but just know I will drop a video as soon as that information's available. But we have already learned a lot from Ripple's initial response. So right here we have from James K. Filan. Chris Larson files a letter in which he states Ripple and Mr. Larson do not oppose to unsealing the legal memos in their entirety. This is huge because Ripple is saying you can look at all of these legal memos back from 2012, the SEC can see it, the public can see it, and you guys can see that this entire time we have been under the impression from different legal departments that XRP is not a security. There is no reason they would be unsealing all this information if it said anything negative towards Ripple. They are unsealing this information because they want everyone to see it and understand how absurd the SEC's case against Ripple really is. It's also important to note that we actually already have statements out of Ripple's legal team talking about these documents. Right here we have from Eleanor Tariat out of Fox News. Once released, these documents will show that in 2012, Ripple received a legal analysis that XRP was not an investment contract. The fact that it took the SEC 8 years to suggest they disagreed with that analysis while XRP traded in massive global markets is baffling. We look forward to the public having access to these documents as we continue to vigorously defend our case. This is an amazing statement out of Ripple and shows how confident they are going forward. It's so nice to see how transparent Ripple is being about all of this. They are saying we want the public to see that we are not in the wrong here. The SEC has been completely arbitrary in who they've gone after. They've been acting in shady ways, and they have essentially just been doing whatever they want. The SEC is a rogue agency, and Ripple is willing to put their reputation on the board to show that they have not done anything wrong. They want the public to see that under their entire history as a company, they have been as transparent and as responsible as possible, and they, like all of us, have always been under the impression that XRP is in no way a security. Let's keep moving though, because we actually have some brand new information out of Jeremy Hogan, and this is some new evidence that he is bringing to the table that he really hasn't talked about much to this point. Jeremy Hogan tweets out, I couldn't figure out how the Twitter sleuth's evidence of discriminatory SEC behavior could fit into the Ripple case. So I reread the Fox case and found this article on it, and there it was. In a sense, discriminatory enforcement is evidence of lack of fair notice. Before we get into it, I want to say Jeremy Hogan to this point has always said he thought the ETH information in terms of ETHgate and the conflicts of interest at the SEC was very interesting, but didn't know how to fit that into the current Ripple case. For him, they seemed very divided the way they were currently being presented, and couldn't figure out how the whole Ethereum free pass really impacted Ripple's case on why their fair notice defense for XRP also not being a security should prevail. But what Jeremy Hogan dug up right here is huge. There is actually case law showing that if there is a discriminatory enforcement action, it actually creates a lack of clarity and can be used for a fair notice defense. And let me just read this to you. And because the regulations were so standardless that they authorized or encouraged seriously discriminatory enforcement. So what this is saying is the standards were so unclear and no one had any idea what was going on that you actually had a situation where you had two very similar companies or two similar actions, and the SEC treated them extremely differently. We have this same exact case with Ripple right now. Ethereum and Ripple did essentially the same exact thing, and by the SEC standards, Ripple actually did their offering of XRP in a much more compliant way than Ethereum Foundation did with the Ethereum token. Despite this, the SEC went after Ripple and not Ethereum. So how does this play into this case? Well, it shows that the rules were never clear and Ripple never had fair notice. If the rules were clear, the SEC would have treated Ethereum the same way they are treating Ripple. And while this has probably been obvious to you guys for a while now, and it's been obvious to me, what Jeremy Hogan is pulling up here is there's actually case law around it. So Ripple can cite this case law and say, look at this case right here. This same thing happened. There was discriminatory enforcement that allowed this agency to go after a company and not another, and it was ruled that this was evidence that there was no fair notice or lack of fair notice, same thing. This is huge because now we have case law that actually brings the Ethereum free pass speech into the Ripple case and shows that Ripple never had fair notice because the SEC was acting like a rogue agency. There was no laws telling the SEC what they can do, what they can't do, and that shows that Ripple is not in the wrong. I want to keep moving here though and show you guys this because this is going to show you how absurd it is that the SEC is treating Ripple the way they are. We know the SEC has been trying very hard to obtain the legal memos back from 2012 for what Ripple's lawyers were telling Ripple considering XRP. We know, based on what we're seeing right now, these documents likely say things that are very good for Ripple's case, but I just want you guys to listen to this, and it's going to let you know how absurd and how two-sided the SEC standards are with Ripple versus Ethereum.
The genius was, he came up with this and presented it to the world. When I saw this, I had this aha moment. He was in Toronto. When I was in Toronto within, I think it was 72 hours. And I asked him, I said, can you really build this? This 19-year-old little kid. And he's like, yeah, I think I can, I just don't have the money for it. And so this was a really, I don't know, this was like a game-changing conversation, I think, in blockchain. And none of us realized it at the time. And so I'm going to say at the outset, I take no credit for any of this. We were doing this because we were trying to promote a project. And I'll explain how that took off and took this life of its own afterwards. But he said to me, he said, the problem is our lawyers are telling us this is an illegal securities offering, which in fact it was. Because they were saying...
Here, we have them publicly talking about the fact that the Ethereum lawyers back in the day said the Ether offering was the offering of a security. And yet the SEC completely ignores this, says they don't see Ethereum as a security, and then goes after Ripple and says, well, what did your lawyers say in the early day? This is exactly what Jeremy Hogan is saying. He says it's discriminatory enforcement. They're choosing who they go after and who they don't because there's no rules saying what they're allowed to do. It's a complete lack of fair notice, and this falls right into Ripple's lap in this case. This is such a massive event because it is one more piece of evidence that goes against the SEC and shows that they are a fraud rogue agency that is doing everything they can to obtain power. And that is what Biden's executive order is all about. Which is coming next week. Eleanor Terriot tweeted out, her reporting collaborates that I was told by many sources that the SEC, CFTC, and US Treasury and other agencies will be asked to weigh in on regulation. Notice how it does not just say the SEC like Gary Gensler seems to think it is. It is all these different agencies, and right now the SEC is trying to throw their weight around and say, because there's no rules, we're going to take over and do whatever we want. As soon as this executive order goes into place and these different agencies get involved, they're going to look at the SEC and they're going to say, whoa, slow your roll. No one gave you authority to be doing this, and actually, this new executive order might be looking to take some of your authority away because right now, you are not bound by any rules and you are just doing whatever you want. This is really good, and if we see what Gary Gensler is doing right now, he's essentially trying to say, and he said this in a House Democratic event, he says the SEC has complete control over crypto, and that's essentially it. We know that's not going to be the case. He is only saying that because he only has a couple more months of unchecked power where he can do whatever he wants. But as soon as the rules come in and different agencies start saying, whoa, 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 no one said you could do this, he is going to have to calm down. He's going to be forced to stay in his lane, and he's not going to own all of crypto. He might own the sales of crypto, he might own the exchanges, but he's not going to own the tokens. Those are clearly not securities, and he knows it. That's why he refuses to ever say which ones are securities and which ones aren't, because his own definition of a security, his own agency's definition of a security, does not include 99% of cryptocurrencies, including XRP. Last of all, guys, make sure you go to my Twitter and connect to Congress. We see right here from Jay that a lot of congressmen are starting to respond and say, what is going on at the SEC? These congressmen, a lot of them are already in the hot seat because of how bad the economy is. The last thing they want is a bunch of investors going to them and saying the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, who's supposed to be protecting us, is attacking us. It's going to make them pissed off because that's not what they want to see right now. It is not a top priority for them to have to go over and regulate their own regulatory agencies. The more pressure they get, the more mad they're going to get, and they're going to go to Gary and say, I don't care what your point is. Figure this out because I don't want to hear about it. And guess who Gary reports to? Congress. Guess who Congress reports to? Sometimes us. Hopefully us this time.
So enjoy your day, everybody. I'm always here for you. Leave any comments or questions below, and be sure to subscribe. But thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you. Enjoy your day, and I always have your back. So thanks so much, everybody.